Joining us tonight on NewsNation to talk about the recent developments out of Washington, D.C. is constitutional law expert Paul Lisnek. Paul, thanks as always for your time. Let's have you put on your political hat first before we get to the legal issues. This was noteworthy today, the announcement from the Attorney General, because it so openly went against the president's message that we've been hearing. What do you make of the fact that he made this statement at all?
Yeah, hi, Joe. Well, first of all, listen, other people who have said the election was clean and properly handled have lost their job over it. So William Barr probably has a sense that there won't be much retribution for him in only this period of weeks to go, though one doesn't know. But clearly, this is not anything that would have made the president very happy, because with the Attorney General coming out essentially putting a knife through the major and mainline argument, which is there's been fraud all over the place, and the Attorney General now saying we're not finding it, we're not finding anything that would overturn the election. I still think you'll see these lawsuits proceed. William Barr is not the attorney technically for the president. That's Rudy Giuliani. So I think the president will continue in his efforts.
All right, let's get to the potential presidential pardon bribery scheme. You've had an hour or so to digest it. Can you have it, I guess, break it down into layman's terms for those of us who haven't seen the documents?
Yeah, so I can probably do a New York Times crossword puzzle easier than this one with all the redaction, as Marnie showed us, but let me sort of put it this way. First of all, people should understand this is nothing that just happened recently or today or anything like that. This order was actually issued back in August, so it was an investigation that was going on over the summer. We also know that Rudy Giuliani, though he is not named in this document, was being investigated during that time. So it's a matter of his lawyers trying to put two and two together and say, is that what it's referring to? Judge Howell today, who it's worth noting, was the judge who also oversaw the Mueller investigation. So she looked and decided to release her opinion today and basically indicating that she has plans to release more of this material unless somebody can convince her why. The trick here seems to be that what happened was the feds went into some offices one day and confiscated some material. The effort to protect it from disclosure seems to be, well, it's attorney-client privilege. It's between the client, whoever that is, we don't know, and their lawyers, and we don't know who they are either. But here's the thing. There's something which is called the crime fraud exception, which is, yes, if something is protected by attorney-client privilege, it doesn't get disclosed. But if you are trying to keep that information from coming out or giving it to somebody else but going through an attorney, then that's not going to protect the information. That seems to be the direction this judge may be headed.
So there was one person apparently seeking the pardon or the reprieve of sentence. Paul, is this someone we know has already been sentenced, or is it a potential sentence?
Well, that's kind of the guessing game, and we read, as we heard in that footnote, it looks like, no monies were paid yet, so it's hard to know. It certainly could be read, Joe, as somebody who expects to be indicted and maybe imprisoned, and that's why the question is, I want a pardon, or we see the relief of the prison term kind of like a commutation. If I am sentenced, then, please let me go, and it seems to be for money paid for perhaps the campaign, which is the bribe for pardon kind of notation. But it also goes on to say money hasn't been paid yet. So it's a mystery right now as to who's being referred to. All that's blocked out. It's a guessing game. And obviously, as much as I, like any other lawyer, would love to do some guessing, it's a dangerous thing to do,
Sure.
and I'm trying not to put some names in there other than to indicate the investigations we knew were going on around that time.
All right, Paul, we have a minute left, so if you can give me, I have two questions, 30-second answers for each. When might we find out who was involved? What will that take? Would that be charges? When will we learn more about this?
So, Joe, the judge has given 30 days for the lawyers to come up with reasons not to disclose things. So we could, in around 30 days, although, we're on top of the holidays and everything, but we could find out who these names are then. Or if not the names, we could find out the documents being referred to and other information. It's unclear as to what it is and how much she will actually redact. As far as who's impacted, it depends whether or not there's a charge. Look, we do know this. The DOJ does not generally charge anybody within 60 days of an election, so nothing happened prior to this election. That rule now is sort of off the board, so DOJ could act.
There's a lot of talk, Paul, and at this point it's just talk, about preemptive pardons. How unusual would that be? Why would a president preemptively pardon someone or anyone? And what about the idea of a self-pardon?
Tough to do in 30 seconds, Joe, but the bottom line is trying to preempt pardon anybody would be new to the books. Nobody gives a pardon, no president gives a pardon to somebody saying, I don't know if you did anything, but if you did, well, then you're pardoned. Because pardons have to set out details as to what it is somebody did or what it is you're referencing. We've just seen the pardon for Mike Flynn, for example, and even that is a bit vague as far as what it refers to. It talks about whatever comes out of the grand jury proceedings. Obviously, this is President Trump trying to protect his own kids, potentially himself. And the argument, if he does it, will be, we know the Biden administration is going to come after us, even though Biden has said he would not do that. So I must protect my family as any good American would do. That's what he would say. As far as the self-pardon, that is also unclear law. No president has ever done that before. And if you really want to know my theory, if the president is interested in getting himself a pardon, he is more likely to step down from the presidency, put Mike Pence in as president, have him pardon him, and then perhaps take the presidency back. But that would be the safer way to do it than to just issue a self-pardon, because that's uncharted territory.
That was worth the 45 seconds, maybe a little over. Paul Lisnek, the bow tie game is always on point. We appreciate your time, my friend.